The great South African author Herman Joels Bosman tells a fascinating tale in his short story, A Bekkersdal Marathon. The story takes place in a small dorp in South Africa, and it's a Sunday morning church service. But there's a problem with the minister. As soon as he gets up to tell the congregation what psalm to sing, he suddenly goes into a trance and forgets what he's told them. A few minutes later, he wakes up and often tells them to repeat what they have just sung. Well, this particular Sunday morning, as the organist is playing, the minister gets up and says to the congregation, "We are going to sing Psalm 119. And so the congregation begins to sing, and the organist begins to play. And after a few verses, the minister has fallen into a trance. And he doesn't tell the organist to stop playing. He doesn't tell the congregation to stop singing. And of course, Psalm 119 is the longest psalm in the entire book of Psalms. 176 verses. And it goes on and on and on, and the frustration within the church is building and building and building, hence the name, the Bekkersdal Marathon, a real marathon of a service that Sunday morning. Why is it that Psalm 119 is so long? Why 176 verses? But let's have a look at it in terms of this week's Parshat Nasso, which has the reputation of also being the longest Parsha in the Torah. And you guessed it, how many verses? 176. So the longest Torah reading is 176 verses. The longest psalm is 176 verses. But more than that, the longest book of the Talmud, which is Tractate Bava Batra, which deals with laws of property rights, is also 176 pages long. Is this coincidental? Why is it that the longest Parsha of the Torah, the longest psalm, and the longest book of the Talmud are all 176 verses? And is there a type of relevance to this? Well, if we take that psalm, Psalm 119, we'll see that it is divided into a very particular way. Each letter of the alphabet appears 8 times. There are 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and each one appears 8 times, giving a total of 176. What is the significance of the number 8? And what is the theme of the psalm? Well, if you've read this psalm, you'll see that the entire content, the entire thrust and gist of the psalm is a praise of the Torah. That's what King David dedicated it to. But why did he choose the number 8? And in this lies a great mystery, and this may explain to us why the longest psalm, the longest parsha, the longest book of the Talmud is 22 times 8, because of the significance of the number 8. But before we explain the significance of the number 8, let's look at the number 7, which is a far more common number within Judaism. It appears many, many times. There are 7 days of the week. There are 7 years in the sabbatical cycle. And there are 7 sabbatical cycles followed by the Jubilee year in the 50th year. There are 7 days of the festival of Pesach. It's a number that recurs over and over again. And really our sages tell us that 7 is the number of this physical world. God created the world in 7 days. And 7 represents all of the different directions. Up, down, north, east, south, and west, which will give you 6, a cube. And then that single point that unites them together. That is the 7. This world is bound by 7. So for example, when the Torah speaks about the fact that the Jewish people will be pursued by their enemies, it says that they will pursue them in 7 directions. It uses 7 as a number of multiplicity within this physical world. Everything is perfect within the 7, which would mean then, of course, that 8 is on a higher level. 8 represents something that is not of this world, but something that is beyond this world, or if you like, before this world. And this is the Torah. The Torah comes into this world. It manifests in this world. And it's something that we keep and observe and learn in this world. But it comes from a higher place. Not only that, but our sages tell us that when God was looking to create the world, What was his blueprint? He looked into the Torah and created the world. The Torah comes from a higher place. We see this. We've just celebrated the festival of Shavuot. We have 7 weeks that we count between Pesach and Shavuot, the Omer, 49 days. And then on the 50th day, we receive the Torah. The 50th day, of course, is the beginning of the 8th week. We see the number 8 again appearing in reference to the Torah. The same thing if we look at Psalm number 19, where King David also praises the Torah. He begins to praise the Torah from verse number 8, because it is something that is beyond this world. Often we look at the Torah and its mitzvot, and we try to understand, how is this exactly relevant to this physical world? Does it fit into this physical world? And it does. But we have to acknowledge that it comes from a higher place. It comes from a loftier place. This will also explain to us, of course, why it is that the bris of a baby boy takes place on the 8th day. Why not the 8th? Why not the 7th day? Why the 8th day? For the same reason. From the point of view of the physical world, that boy is perfect. There's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing that needs to be fixed, if you like, whatsoever. There's no reason why we have to remove the foreskin. But we do it on the 8th day to indicate that there is a higher level. There is this physical world, and then there is trying to perfect the physical world. And all of this, of course, is done with the number 8. And that is why on that faithful Sunday morning in the Beckersdale Church, they said Psalm 119 over and over again, 176 verses, not coincidental, because King David chose to use each letter of the alphabet 8 times in praise of the Torah, which is at the level of 8. And with that, I wish you a good Shabbat.